Hello, this is All Rats back with another look at the game between Chatica and Jorobo. Uh, I've printed here in the window a message I got on ICC from Polkov. I'll read it to you. I watched your video with great interest. I'm surprised you didn't consider 5 knight c3. The best move in this position and in similar positions is to ignore the threat on b2. Just develop. After knight c3, black can't take the pawn. White has a good position. Okay, let's just advance the position to that point. Yeah, that didn't work. Okay. Why didn't I consider knight c3? Alright, let me try to explain a few things here, just about how I put these videos together. Maybe this will explain, and we can find a good method for you, ladies and gentlemen, to ask me questions. YouTube only allows 15-minute videos to be uploaded. It's possible to extend them, but I haven't looked into them yet. There's only so much I can do in a 15-minute time. If necessary, I can always make a second part if I get a really long one. Okay? That's part one. The next thing I'd like to add is the way I teach chess and the way I discuss chess games, I don't like to spend a lot of time just showing you variations. I like to give explanations, reasons why you do things, because most games you play aren't going to be duplicates of others. You're not going to be playing the same game and winning the same position over and over again. However, you will be learning themes that you will be using over and over again. So sometimes I'll see a theme come up in a game that I recognize because I've used it before, and I will apply my logic that I've understood to the current position. And I won't always catch everything. And it's an interesting thing about chess authors. Chess authors are very, very particular about being 100% precise with their work. Part of it's an ego thing. Another part is, I've noticed way back in the 60s and even in the 70s, Class C players to experts used to pore over grandmaster analysis and try to find flaws in it. And then they would submit letters to, like Larry Evans' column in Chess Life, and say, oh, look at this. Grandmaster Benko said that suggested this continuation, but look, what's wrong with this? This refutes everything. And then Larry Evans says, gosh, you're right. And now this Class B player has got brownie points, and he's all happy because he solved something that the grandmaster didn't. Well, in reality, all this Class B player has done is wasted time looking at studying chess, trying to find the wrong thing. He should be investing his time in better ways. These are some of the things I will be teaching, the better ways to invest your time, how to study chess. So if a grandmaster has a lot of erroneous analysis, it's going to look bad on him. I mean, he's a grandmaster. How come he can't analyze a position? And they do have an ego, and they are sensitive to these things. So in a way, they have to be precise every step of the way. Now, in my case, I'm just a national master. I'm going to make mistakes. I make mistakes in my play. If I didn't, I wouldn't. I'd be 2,800 and playing for the World Championship. So I don't pretend to be someone I'm not. All I do is I work the best with what I have to work with, and that's the way I play. If I just show you variations and, well, black can't play here because this. What have I really taught you? I haven't taught you anything. You're just looking at my analysis. You're not thinking for yourself. So Polkov is quite correct that knight c3 is a good move here, and black can't take the pawn. And I'm not going to bother to show you. You can check on your own. If you play this, could reach this position with white or with black, you might want to look into it. But for now, let's save some time and not even look at that. Now, the other thing, the way I develop these lessons or these game analysis, I don't really plan anything ahead of time. I'm a little bit familiar with the game from what I've done. I've played over it 2 or 3 times. I've made some mental notes. I make absolutely no written notes whatsoever. I rely on my memory to bring everything to the forefront that I want to show you. And I'm pretty good at it. Okay, now let me show you why the principle of why I suggested the moves b3 and queen c1. Let me just back this up, and I'll show you a line that I sometimes play as white in blitz chess. It's not a very good line, but it gets your opponent out of book. Okay, now bishop h4. Now black thinks, so look at this, I'm going to get the bishop. Well, I've got this little tricky move here, f3. Now, if black moves the knight, he's going to lose a pawn, so he's essentially forced to take the pawn. And now look at that. I got two center pawns, and black has a weak pawn on h4. Now winning that is a whole other story, but let's just take a look at what could happen from here. Okay, c5, e3, and now queen b6. Now this is a position I'm familiar with because I've had it before. And here white has a choice. He can guard with queen c1, or he can play b3, or he can but he can't play knight c3 in this position because a lot of the tricks that worked in the other variation between Chatica and jorobo don't work here, because white doesn't have all the wonderful moves at his disposal that he did before. So we won't get into that. But perhaps a better way to say for me to say the thing was to also say in the game Chatica jorobo that white could consider sacrificing the b pawn and as a third alternative. And again, we can only when we're playing a game, we can only see what we see and analyze it out and make the best choice. If we don't make the best choice, we have to work harder in the game than we might have otherwise. And it's basically, what do we see in the game? The more we see, the more we understand, the better our chances are. Okay, so let me revert back to the game, and we'll get to we'll get to Polkov's other question in a little bit, because there was a number of things that I didn't cover that I wanted to cover in the discussion. So let me just kind of like slowly run through this, and we'll get to a certain point here real quick. Okay, this was the point where I said that black had all of black's pieces were better than the white counterparts, and then black energetically conducts an attack. Now, one thing that I noticed in the game was that black missed a great chances for a draw, which I pointed out in the other video, by not, or white missed a great chance for a draw by not putting his rook on a8 and winning the black pawn on a4. Black still has some winning chances, but there's a good chance white's going to draw that. So black had such a fine game. What went wrong? And we're going to try to find a couple of alternative moves. Now, we're not going to analyze these out and say that black wins as a result of this. We're not going to try to prove that. We're just going to try to get a position that black has some activity in. If you really want to study this game could go on for 10 hours. And you could just tear this thing to shreds and finally find a forced win for black, or a much better strategy to preserve an advantage. Well, we're not going to try to do that. We're just going to try to look for active plans and discuss those instead of trying to find brute force variations that win. Okay, so let's step forward just a little bit here, and we'll get to a point where maybe black had some different alternatives. Okay, there's nothing wrong with knight a5 because it brings the knight into c4 with tempo, getting ready to redeploy to d6 and e4. This was all fine. Then white finally gets his development up. Black is making attacks. Okay. Now, we're just about a point where now white's still making preparations. He's keeping the knight at f3. White still hasn't generated any kind of activity yet. So this is the time, maybe now, where black, instead of just running out and seizing space, should have tried to coordinate something else. Let's see what we can come up with, just as a possible idea. Okay, probably nothing wrong with g5, queen a5. Okay, let's hold back on h5 a moment. Let's look at some other possibilities. We could play g4 right away here. Okay, we could play that right away. There's a good chance white doesn't want to take on g4 and open up that file. There might be a sacrifice on f1. And this knight gets out of the way, and the queen can run down here and take here. But a good active move for black, instead of pushing with h5 in this position, might just be to simply play rook to g8. It gets it on an open file that's about to be opened up. Alternatively, black could try rook hf8. But one thing too we have to look at is look at the time on the clocks. Both sides have about just over 2 minutes left. So there's not much time in the bank, and as I recall, they did come down to where they had to play with increments only. Okay, so you can't always solve everything, but what you can try to do is, one term I've heard used is window dressing. In other words, if you look at a picture of prepared food like at McDonald's, you'll see how luscious it looks and how delicious, and you're just ready to have a bite. Then when you go and order it at the restaurant, it doesn't look anything close to what that picture did. Well, in effect, what we're doing here is we're putting our pieces on our most active squares and then seeing what comes with. So in this position, rook f8 or rook g8 were excellent candidate moves. Just hold back with h5, which took a tempo, or maybe even play g4 and then decide where the rook wants to go. So those were both playable alternatives for black. Okay. Now notice that black's got his g4 move in, but that rook on c8 isn't here on the king side where he belongs. If it was over there on the king, there was one other possible line here that I wanted to show. As soon as white played c4, black had a chance to just play g takes f3. This is a very good move here. If white recaptures with the bishop, c4 is going to hang. He's not guarding c4. And if he takes with the pawn on g2, now we've got a direct open file headed toward the white king. So black did miss a pretty powerful move right there. Okay, let's go to where we want to go. And that's Polkov's second comment, which I haven't shown you yet, but you will see it in just a moment. Okay, it was at this point where I made some suggestions of king h1 or g3 with the idea of f4, and I think maybe Polkov didn't understand it. Let me show you. Oh, got to put the Kibitz camp thing on. I have 2 minutes left. Okay. Polkov says f4. I'm not suggesting f4 in this position. I said g3 with the idea of f4. And you've got to look at this. I'll tell you why I wanted to suggest this idea. The idea is if the pawns get up to the black squares, the black bishop is no longer threatening down here. You just have to watch down on the king side. You just have to watch out for endgames where it comes in from behind and takes on h2, or it sacrifices on f4 or g3 and the pawns break through. You could take the queens and rooks off the board and try and play this ending out and analyze it, or you could just try to visualize it. Can black set up a Zugzwang type position or not? And then you have to try to evaluate that. That's something sometimes if you don't know the endgame theory exactly, you can try and solve it just by visualizing that occurrence. Okay, just a couple more things here. What else did white do wrong? Or what did black do wrong? This was probably a point where black should have gone ahead and played king g7, kept the queens on the board. It's true there's some poise in this position, queen g8, or g2 check, king f6, rook g8, but it looks to me like the black king can just run out of there. When you have an advantage in position, you want to try to keep as much wood on the board as you possibly can. And having the queens and rooks on the board is, with both kings exposed, can often lead to a checkmate or a decisive win of material. But black still has some initiative on the board, and the black king can run for safety pretty quick here. Okay, that just about covers all my points. If you have any questions, if I missed something, hey, point it out. I made a mistake. Just type it out, and I can give an answer. I'll try to keep. I don't want to keep making video after video after video over one game. This is just a test run to see how this works, and I'm developing my my technique on making these videos within the 15-minute time limit, which is almost up, and sharing as much of my knowledge with you as I possibly can while I do it. All right. Thanks so much for your time. I hope this one helped. Type out any comments you have, and we'll look forward to making the next one. Take care.